has been a rough offseason for the Boston Celtics. They went from forming a super team to losing Kyrie Irving and Al Horford. There were locker room issues throughout the season that stemmed from Kyrie's looming free agency decision, force-feeding Gordon Hayward, and maybe they were debating about whether the earth is round or flat. Jokes aside, not all is lost for the Celtics, and they still have a solid young core, but they're no longer a powerhouse that everyone thought they would be last season. They came out of the draft with players who could contribute right away, most notably Romeo Langford, Grant Williams, and Carson Edwards. Langford has great physical tools and a good scorer off the dribble. He averaged around 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists, while shooting 45% from the field and 27% from deep in his lone season at Indiana. His smooth offensive talent looks effortless, but he struggled to make threes, and he could be a ball stopper in the offense. He did play through a thumb injury, which might have affected his three-point shooting. He reminds me of Jeremy Lamb when he came out of college. Both players are smooth shot makers, with a great mid-range game, and scouts projected that they're capable of being a featured scoring option. It took 6 years for Lamb to become a decent starter, because he wasn't able to complement other players with three-point shooting and consistent defense. When he gets to the NBA, defenders will sag back and dare him to take the three until he proves that he can make it consistently. He'll be joining the Celtics, where Brad Stevens implements a system that emphasizes ball movement, open threes, and features Kemba, Tatum, Brown, and Hayward as shot creators. Langford's role will probably be relegated to spacing the floor for the starters, and won't have a lot of opportunity to play to his strengths. It'll be interesting to see how much floor time Langford gets in his rookie season, since he does have that spark plug scoring ability and gets to the line frequently, but not the spacing or defensive consistency to complement their stars. There are questions about whether Grant Williams' game can translate to the NBA, but he landed in a situation where he won't need to play out of his comfort zone. He's a physical, hard-working player who can knock down threes and play high IQ defense. He averaged around 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists, while shooting 56% from the field and 33% from deep in his junior year at Tennessee. His game isn't flashy, and he'll mostly be playing off-ball like he was in Summer League. Offensively, he's great at finding open spaces within the defense, positions himself well, and seems to always make the right play. With Horford gone, Williams' experience of running the show in the post would be a point of attack as well. Defensively, he's not the tallest or longest player on the floor, but his timing on defensive rotations and help defense is really good. He reminds me of Boris Diaw, who could do a bit of everything on offense, and smart enough to keep up with more athletic players on the defensive end. After 3 years of college, Williams is ready to contribute from day one, and the Celtics lack depth at the forward position, so he might see a lot of floor time as the primary backup for the forward spot. Carson Edwards is an undersized guard who could impact the game with a spark plug scoring ability, and I just had to include this picture. He averaged around 24 points, 4 rebounds, and just under 3 assists per game, while shooting 39% from the field and 36% from deep in his junior year at Purdue. His ability to knock down threes will get him some playing time in this upcoming season. Edwards landed in a great situation with the Celtics, and Brad Stevens was able to maximize Isaiah Thomas's potential despite his defensive limitations. There are some Isaiah Thomas comparisons thrown around, but he reminds me more of Nate Robinson. Both are great explosive scorers. Edwards isn't the playmaker that Thomas is, and his offense relies more on the three-pointer like Robinson. He was showing out during Summer League, and he was hitting threes in every way possible, spotting up, off screens, and off the dribble. Kemba, Brown, and Smart will play most of the minutes at the guard position. Without much depth after those 3 players, I believe Stevens will play either Langford or Edwards based on whoever has the hot hand that night. In free agency, the Celtics lost both their established star players and Marcus Morris. Kemba Walker is a great consolidation prize, and he might be an even better fit than Irving, both on the floor and in the locker room. They basically sent Rozier to Charlotte for Walker and a second-round pick. They aren't going to overpay Scary Terry anyway, since he has a career average field goal percentage of 38%, which is indeed scary. It is risky to give a max contract to Kemba that pays him until he's 33, whose game relies on his athleticism, but Celtics absolutely needed to sign him in order to stay competitive. Kemba and Irving have a similar play style. They're both elite in pick and rolls and are 3-level scorers. Kemba has never averaged above 45% shooting from the field, but he's never played with a roster as talented as the Celtics and a tactician in Brad Stevens. He has been reducing his shots from the mid-range and is more willing to take threes off screens and in isolation, which fits into Stevens' system more than Irving, who tends to settle for mid-range jumpers. Although Kemba was an average catch-and-shoot shooter last year, he didn't have other playmakers to set him up for open threes. Kemba will need to adjust playing off-ball more, with Tatum, Brown, and Hayward on the team. With more talent around him, defenses can't just key in onto Kemba, and he'll get more threes on the weak side. They traded down from the 20th pick for the 24th and 33rd pick. One of those picks were used to clear cap space, and that Aaron Baines trade was a steal, since they got the Bucks' 2020 first-round pick back in that trade. That pick would be around the mid-20s next season, and they signed Enes Kanter to a similar deal to Baines. Kanter signed a 2-year, $10 million deal, which is a bargain, but it probably won't make Kanter's nipples hard.
My nipples get hurt.
While Kanter makes less of an impact on the defensive end, he provides a lot more on the offensive end, and provides depth at the center position. With Kanter on the team, some adjustments will need to be made. He provides a post-up presence and some playmaking at the center position. He has the touch and some experience in taking threes in previous seasons, and the Celtics will experiment with that. I mean, even Baines started shooting threes last season. They lost Horford to the 76ers, and they won't be able to replace Horford's impact on both ends of the floor. By losing Kyrie and not getting AD this offseason, I understand why the Celtics didn't give the 33-year-old a 4-year contract. Horford's game will age well, but his defensive impact might fall off due to declining athleticism. Injuries are always a concern during Father Time, and Celtics will have to pay Brown next offseason, and Tatum in the season after that. They re-signed Daniel Theis to a 2-year, $10 million contract. I really like Theis as a player. He's an undersized center, but he makes up for it with smart defense and shooting. He's basically a 3-and-D big, which is really rare in the league. He'll need to show that he can have the same impact in a larger role. His $5 million per year contract is fair, but I think he will outplay his contract value. Both him and Williams will need to step up in this upcoming season. The Celtics couldn't re-sign Marcus Morris, who was a key piece in the Celtics rotation last season. After losing him, they're a little thin at the forward position, so they need to address that before the trade deadline. They re-signed Brad Wanamaker to a minimum contract. He played well as a third-string point guard, and might be the first guard off the bench after Marcus Smart, if Edwards and Langford struggle in their rookie season. Waiving Gershon Yabusele opened up a roster spot, and he hasn't been producing on the floor anyways. Here's the summary of their offseason moves. I would grade the Celtics offseason a C+. There's no doubt that the team got worse after this offseason, but they acted swiftly and signed a star in Kemba Walker. I would have given the Celtics a C initially, but these moves open up an opportunity for Tatum and Brown to develop into stars. No other team could have bounced back better than the Celtics after losing 2 stars. This is their projected depth chart, and they'll probably start Kemba, Brown, Tatum, Hayward, and Theis. I'm less certain on who they'll start at a power forward position, but based on Stevens' familiarity with Hayward, I believe he'll start him. The center position is up for grabs as well. I would prefer starting Theis, because he has the most balanced skill set among the 3 centers, but who Stevens starts will depend on matchups. The Celtics roster was so stacked last season that after losing Kyrie and Horford, they're still a good team, and they'll likely be a top 4 seed heading into the playoffs. Walker had carried the Hornets to 30 to 40 wins without much help in the past few seasons. Adding Tatum, Brown, and a brilliant tactician in Stevens, this team could be a contender. It'll be interesting to see how well the Celtics will fare against the likes of Embiid and Giannis with their lack of depth in the front court. I don't think Danny Ainge is done dealing and wheeling, and they might add some unsigned free agents. Alternatively, they might strike a trade before the deadline. Marc Gasol and Steven Adams will be great fits and bolster their chances in their playoffs if the Raptors and Thunders decide to blow it up midway through the season. Please comment down below on what you think of the Celtics offseason. If you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe, as I'll be analyzing how the other NBA teams did this offseason.